Hey guys, this is Jason with Fat Fender Garage, and I've got two good friends of mine, Mike Mannett, and this is this really awesome Bronco he's got here, and I got Roman. Roman works here practically single-handedly. Well, of course, a lot of people here at the shop worked, right? But he kind of was the superintendent, if you will, on making sure that we got everything done. Oftentimes, Mike would be communicating with Roman, and they'd be scheming about some freaking stupid idea, then we'd do it. There's a process that goes into a build, and it basically comes with an idea someone has, and then they call us up, and we kind of interview each other. This is what happened here. Mike would be like, hey, I've looked at your Yelp reviews. They suck really bad. And I'd be like, oh yeah, years ago, we had a couple misunderstanding and unfortunate things, but we talked through it. He decided to bring his Bronco here and have us build something, and it's like no Bronco I have ever seen built to this level, this magnitude. So stay with us. We're going to go through and talk about all the aspects of it. But Mike, tell us, what was your vision when you thought, hey, I want to take this Bronco, because you've built it twice already.
Right.
This is your third time.
Yeah, this is my third time. So bought the Bronco a little over 30 years ago. Interestingly, my dad, I was talking to him, I said, I need a project, and we'd always worked on vehicles together and built a couple old trucks, and we're really into four-wheel drives. We've never built a two-wheel drive. But my dad said, what about an old Bronco? And at that time, I didn't even know what an old Bronco was.
So, he liked them.
But he liked them. He said, come on up, there's one for sale. And this was the Bronco. Of course, it was in a different state. It was totally stock, floor pans rusted out, and just, it was in terrible shape. We had the top off it the very next day, and we started cutting into it. And we did. We built it the first time. Dad did all the paint work and a lot of the mechanics work. We drove it for quite a while, and then maybe 15 years ago, we decided let's do it again. And at that point, we'd started doing more four-wheeling, so we thought, well, let's tear it down and kind of beef it up a little bit. And we went from 35-inch tires to 37s, and so, that was really cool. We painted it the boxwood green, and then after a while, about 4 years ago, I had sold my company, and I thought, let's give it one last hurrah. My dad's, he's gonna be 80 next year. Let's just really go big. And so my thought was, let's do a Coyote swap and some new interior.
And I remember when you showed up and you brought it here, and we thought new interior, Coyote swap. And he's like, hey, you think 80 grand will get us there?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, we're just putting a Coyote in it, just a normal Coyote.
Right.
Freshen up the interior. Like, that feels close, give or take 10 grand maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that feels probably doable. The Bronco shows up. We didn't do that.
No, I got a little sidetracked. I got the bug. We started doing things, and just to back up a second, because you'd mentioned Yelp, and I was looking around and calling different shops to think, like, who am I going to trust kind of my baby to, right? And my dad's. Mixed reviews with other shops. And when I talked to you on the phone, you took my call, and we had this nice long conversation, and I asked you about some Yelp stuff, and it just seemed really genuine, and it felt really good, and I knew immediately this is where I wanted to go. And so that was all cool. For you guys, to kind of walk with me through this process, as I kept wanting to change things, and I kept wanting to, let's go bigger, let's do this, what if we did that? And you warned me, said, hey, okay, it's gonna,
we warn everybody, just so you know, but not everyone listens.
Yeah, I obviously didn't listen very well, but it's amazing.
And what I've learned is, in spite of the money that gets spent, and it gets painful, right? I'm not gonna lie, it's painful, but you're gonna take this home tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is leaving, we're done with it. We got 900 miles on this thing. And 900 miles in this thing feels like 3,000 miles in all the other vehicles, because it's a lot more work. But we're ready to ship it off to you. And Roman, you worked a lot with Mike, and we kind of let you spend some time communicating with him. We don't always do that. We want to try to keep some control in the build. We felt like you were pretty understanding, and we were willing to do exactly what you wanted, even if it was a little bit wild. We thought, hey, he knows what he wants, and he does want to do it right. So that makes it a little bit easier on us. But Roman, tell us a little bit about, like, as you're working with Mike and all the changes that are coming in, and they're coming in hot, right? What was that like for you, trying to build this massive Bronco?
I feel like it was fun. Like, Mike's super personable. It's got my phone number, I believe, from Charlie, and then we just kind of communicated back and forth, just like his ideas. And all right, we got to get the axles in. He's coming, I believe, for Thanksgiving time. He wants to see it in there. We got to flex it out, And then it was like, all right, like, transfer cases ordered. We got Dynatrac Dana 60, XD60 for the front, an 80 for the rear. Like, it's definitely impressive. I remember when it came, I feel like I'm a pretty strong guy. I couldn't even lift the axle. Like, I had to grab a forklift to get it out of the pallet. Just like the whole process, communicating with Mike, whatever he wanted. I feel like that was...
I feel like, honestly, like I have new friends, right? We're old friends now.
Yeah.
Because it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
But it was pretty amazing to me, just the friendships. Lots of guys in the shop, especially Roman, Jason. You guys have been so incredible to work with. And I love the hey, what if we did this? And Roman is, you know, he'd tell me, hey, we're working on this problem. We got to figure this out. I'm like, what about this? You know, and sometimes they'd be like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah, I think we definitely had to slow you down.
Yeah, you had to slow my roll.
I mean, like the ideas and just the brainstorming and you know, all your pictures that you would send us of ideas that you had, and you know, modifying the spare tire carrier swing gate, the Hero 3 transfer case, working with drive shafts, the anti-wrap bar. It's got a lot of power for sure.
This boxwood green, we repainted it the exact same color, and it was actually pretty doggone good. I mean, they did a really good job, but I think Mike's like, hey, I've gone this far. Let's just freshen it up, make sure it feels fresh.
You know, I thought about different colors, but my dad painted it this color, you know, and he did a lot of work on the body work. I mean, he had just retired when we decided to do the second build. And so he did a lot of work, and I felt like we got to keep that color, you know. So the mirrors, I had mirrors mounted to the front of the windshield, but they weren't matching the rest of the Bronco by the time we got to those. And so you guys came up with the design. I didn't even see it until it was finished, and it was incredible. And in fact, most of the stuff that, you know, I had an idea, and you guys just made it better. Or sometimes you change it entirely, but it came out better than what I had anticipated.
Yeah, so we had these all 3D printed, then we made it out of billet. And then all of a sudden these doors show up one day.
They were pretty rough. I feel like Mike was like, how do the welds look? We got to clean them up. So, you know, it kind of went through, and he's like, oh, I want to make the body lines match. So we made some relief cuts and then pulled the metal out, filled it in, made some plates, and then tried to line up with the body as, you know, as clean as possible. Made some extensions, but
and the pad,
cleaned up all the welds, and then obviously the armrest pad. No one wanted hot metal during the day, so.
And then there was this teeny tiny little flipper handle, and Mike is basically saying, hey, can we put a bigger handle?
Right.
Which is fair. And so then we 3D printed this out of stainless steel.
Yeah.
And so then we were able to have these, you know, these really cool, they're heavy, so they keep a little weight on it, but you pop up on it. So he's got these really cool rock slider that you had built a long time ago.
They were pressed by Wayne Hansen a long time ago, and I just loved them. I cut the ends and I added and tied them into the roll cage, so I wanted to keep those.
But then you were worried about your dad getting in.
Yeah, I wanted to...
and frankly, all of us getting in.
Yeah.
Because you show up with these massive 40s, and so everything got a little taller.
We didn't think it was going to have doors, so we didn't have any pin switches obviously used to have the amp steps come down until after we came up with this design. So your switches are right here. This is for the driver's side, and then actually another toggle switch for the passenger side.
Roman had the great idea of adding a second switch here because I was worried that maybe my dad would leave his step down. So I'm like, okay, I got you, Pop. And you lowered the seats. That was an idea that you had because I was concerned about it being too
that's
high.
right. I forgot. Boy, that feels like a long time ago. Yeah, so we put these really cool Mustang seats in here, but they sit you a little tall. And so we had to take about 2 inches, roughly 2.5 inches. It gets into some of the cab mounts or the body mounts on the Bronco. I say cab because we do a lot of trucks, but there were some of those adjustments. We got this really cool Icon center console that we've used. We've got your radio, but we also got, you know, this thing here that he can lock and kind of protect it. We built a nice armrest, tied it all in with this kind of Volkswagen plaid. It's really cool and looks nice with this Relicate leather. We also moved the gauges, so the gauges would technically be over here, and it's actually a little harder to see. So it's nicer, everybody can see it here. We'd done this once before, but there was a lot of extra space. So we had some lines we put here because we were putting the AC controls here. So we made it a little bit bigger, put, looks like a little vent right there. Then we got the AC here. Again, more controls. There's a lot. There's an onboard air compressor. There's a ton of stuff. We did fabricate this top. This is a new top. He had a smaller, narrower one. We put some roll bar lights in here. We put this really nice sun visors in here and designed a bracket to help hold it. We also have this mirror here, which has a backup camera built into it. So when he goes in reverse,
and rear camera.
He's got front and rear cameras. So when he's actually rock crawling and he needs to see what's in front of him, he can actually see what's in front or behind him pretty easily. Yes. We also have some Focal component speakers here. We've also got 4 wet sound speakers here. And then in the back even further, You've got his, you know, his gas cans, another 40-inch spare tire, because everybody needs a 40-inch spare tire. We've got a jack here if he's on the trail, or if he's going to Starbucks to get coffee and he needs to jack it up and change a tire. You never know, right?
Can't be too careful.
We've also got another drive shaft in case he loses one. The other cool thing is we got 2 JL subs facing down here. And we got, of course, he's like, hey, could we put a Yeti in here? So when I'm out on the trail. And then we've got, this comes down here. So we've also got, we made a little space here for him. And so we built some tool bags here.
Nice.
Have you seen these?
No, I haven't seen them.
This is the first time? Yeah.
That's incredible.
So
right
we've
on.
got some tool bags. So he's out on the trail. He's got some tools in here, things that he can access. He can pull these out. And then there's an air compressor back in here. He's got a secondary spare battery. They're vented here. Also, so he can access and get it if he needs to look at it for some reason. Or this actually articulates out of the way if he really needs to get to it. So we made it to where it's on a pivot where it'll move. So we had to custom build some brackets here. Everything's custom built, Mike. Like none of this is like off the shelf stuff.
Yeah.
This new seat in the back, and a lot of the stereo components are underneath it. But like I said, there's an air compressor. And why do you need an air compressor out on the trail?
So there's 2 air compressors, right? So we have the small one, the ARB.
I forgot. We got 2 air compressors.
Yeah, the ARB is for the front and rear lockers.
Rear lockers, yep.
And then we have an Oasis, and I bought it like 16 years ago, and it sat in my garage in a box, and I always had plans for it. And so I thought, I really, you know, I'd like to use this and put it in the Bronco to air up and air down tires,
Yeah,
right?
so check this out. So we put right here is a connector for him to put the air hose. I guess that's an air hose in the back.
Toolbox?
In the toolbox, there's a tiny little curly Q air hose, I'm guessing. He can go right here and he can air up each side, air down, air up, whatever you need. I think.
And Roman put one on the other side,
yeah,
too.
there's one on the other side. Well, we have them set at what, 25 PSI?
Yeah.
On these?
Tires,
Yeah, so these are set at 25 PSI. Obviously, you can't really tell, but
It's amazing.
it makes it a little bit easier to drive. You wouldn't want to drive these at like 60 PSI.
We did a Tremec 4050, and then it's a Hero 3-speed transfer case. Just, you know, gives you more different ranges, real low.
You never know when you're going to do King of the Hammer.
You never know. I mean, you could get hung up in a curb at Starbucks. I mean, things happen. Heavy duty drive lines, you guys actually did that here, steering, and then redone, correct?
Redone.
Had a few things redone. These were things that I picked the vendor, you know, begrudgingly, and then had to redo them. So I learned a few lessons. One of the things that's cool that Roman did was the entire frame, plug welded everything, smoothed it. I wanted to keep the stock frame that it came with and the body, and so some things that, because everything else has been changed really. So
yeah, and it flexes pretty good. We
really
can full
good
flex on 40s. You've got a hitch up front. I can't imagine you ever using this, but okay.
Yeah, I've towed it a couple times behind my truck, not long distances.
We built a jumper harness that's sitting in the tool bag.
Right.
If you need it, it's there.
That's right. Yeah, I used to have
Did
to.
we really put connectors for?
Yeah, to plug in to my truck, because I used to have the little lights.
I mean,
that I'd put on the back.
So when you plug that in, the lights are going to work on this?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Trying to keep it from you.
No wonder. So we had this all done, and we literally were ready to set the body on here. We're moving, and then you had a really great idea.
I was worried that with 40s it might not have enough juice, right? So I remember talking to you, and you said, I think it'll be fine, you know, but if you're gonna do it, now's the time. Like, you need to pull the trigger. And so I'm like, I don't want to have to redo it. Let's just do it. And then I came to pick some parts up.
Yeah.
And you took me for a ride in just a regular Gen 3 Coyote, and I was like, I didn't need the supercharger, but
I think now that it's in it, we've driven it. Yeah. I think it's fine.
But it's cool.
It's cool. Turns out adding a supercharger at that point in time took several different front runner kits, combination of several of them, so that we could actually make it work and fit the depth that we needed. It was a little challenging.
Yeah.
I mean, the hood, we had to change the hood up and build some braces and make a few little things because, you know, the first hood kit, the struts start buckling. That sucks with a painted hood, right? You got to redo that. But that's the way it goes sometimes. That's the struggle. Like you mentioned, you use certain vendors, you try different things. They show photos, it does work, and that's the struggle we run into here. That's why we end up designing a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
Is because we've just learned that we need some help. And we've made a lot of little changes here and there. I know you were concerned about running the 132 millimeter oval, and I just kept saying, Mike, there's no room.
Yeah. Right.
There really is no room. And so a lot of this comes down to you make decisions based off, space. And as much as we would love to give him another 25 horsepower out of this thing,
I think we'll be all right.
we'll be all right. We couldn't come up with it, but there's a lot in here. We got RPM steering under here. We've had these guys come over. They did all the geometry on the steering so that we knew that this was going to steer well. And Roman, you've driven it the most. Now we've worked through all the bugs between everything from brakes to whatever it is. Tell me now, how do we sit?
It's solid. I mean, I take it out on the trail. I mean, I got a truck as well, and I feel more than comfortable taking this out.
Yeah.
I mean, you still run into problems here and there, but for the most part,
How reliable do you think it is now?
I mean, I would drive it every day. Every test drive we took in it, I mean, we've done 100-mile loops in it, no questions asked. 4-wheel drive, front, rear. You can disconnect the rear, just run the front. I mean, it's solid. It's got plenty of power, too.
There's a parking brake on here. We put an e-stop on it. Don't forget to turn that off before you take off. There's enough juice in the motor to go past it. Ask me how I know.
Yeah, you've been there, done that.
I did that. I was like, why don't this thing sucks away? I was like, oh, e-brake.
This supercharger's not doing it.
Supercharger can overcome the e-brake, I learned. Luckily, I didn't get too far. Where's your dad? Let's get Pops out here.
Yep.
And let's introduce him because he's the guy that started it all. The guys have done a phenomenal job. I am so proud of Fat Fender Garage. I'm so proud of Roman and the team and everyone that's worked on this, from the body shop guys that have gapped and lined things up and made it work, to the fabrication guys just pulling their hair out. There's inner tubs in here, and there's vents, there's heat shields, there's all this stuff that's just in here. We can't even show it to you all because there's just so much that went into this thing. But at the end of the day, we're really excited to send it home with Mike.
This is my dad, Mike Sr., Pops, and he started all this 30 years ago. Since I was little, really. I mean, he would be working on an old Willys Jeep, and I think, what was I, 6 or 7, and he gave me a project. He said, hey, take these headers off he's like, there's no way he's gonna get those off. And sure enough, an hour later, I had them off. So we've always worked in his garage up in Quincy together on cars, and this was kind of our final hurrah. Well, until the 59, so
Sure. Yeah, he
final.
wasn't done with the punishment, but now that it's done, and you've been watching it all this time, I'm going to hand this microphone to you, but tell us what you're excited about moving on.
Well, I'm totally thrilled with what I see in the workmanship of your people and yourself. And it's everything we ever wanted. And it's way more than we could ever even accomplish on our own. And again, I'd just like to say thank you, Roman, hell of a mechanic, one of the best I've ever seen. And we're just thrilled about the whole thing.
Well, I just want to say thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
It has been a pleasure for us to, one, build this amazing Bronco. Like I said, there's some beautiful Broncos out there, but there's nothing like this out there. This thing has been well thought out, well planned, well executed. Everyone's done a great job. But I'd say, just like with every build that we do here, the friendships that we create with our clients means more to me than anything.
100%.
And I consider you guys just really good friends. Hope that if I ever get to Quincy, I get to stop by and see it. But I'm lucky to think we get to keep working with you a little longer.
Yeah.
We got a really cool 1959 first year of the 4-wheel drive that Ford ever made. It's super awesome. It's toned way down. We promised his wife that we wouldn't make any real changes. He promised his wife that we're gonna keep it real simple, and it's in the paint shop. We're getting ready to paint it, and it should go together pretty quickly because it's just much simpler than this. It'll kind of tow this every now and then and be something, and that's it.
That's it.
And they're going to have 2 awesome vehicles. And it's always sad when we're done. You're like, well, I don't have any reason to talk to Mike anymore.
Oh, no, I'm still going to be calling you.
Other than
and just checking in.
Like, let's check in. So I hope
Need an oil change, you can fly me.
I mean,
Yeah.
exactly.
We're super excited to load this up. So we're going to load this up in the morning. And they're deadheading all the way to Quincy. It's about a 13-hour drive. They don't want to leave this parked outside anywhere. They're going to have a heck of a time this weekend with their family. So I don't think your wife's seen this completed.
She hasn't, no, and she hasn't ridden in it.
He's got the best wife.
Oh, she's amazing.
I
That's the
remember
truth.
when it came to the Supercharger, you're like, let me check it in with my wife. And she's like, will you just work another year? You know?
Yeah, so well, she's like, just do it right the first time. Get what you want, get it done, and yeah, she's amazing.
Mike, thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
And,
Thanks, Roman.
Stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more coming from him on his 59, and we'll see you next time.